Today we're out in my back 40, and I wanted to, because of recent events and videos I've seen over the years about packing your motorcycle, I wanted to put my thoughts and my experience out there how to safely pack your motorcycle. This isn't about what to pack, this is about how to pack it and to have a safe trip with what you've packed. So let's go into the garage. I want to go over some pictures of extreme packing that we should probably take a look at and maybe point some things out. Some of them I think are like meme photographs, but they'll serve a purpose. So as I mentioned, I wanted to show some pictures of some extreme examples of motorcycle packing, and while there are extreme, I think some of them may be memes like this one. If you're going to go get hay for your horse, you probably should go use your pickup, not your bike. I'm sure that happens in third world countries, but it's kind of a meme photograph. But I really wanted to go through and look at some of these examples because they're so extreme. I don't know that anybody in their right mind would actually go to that level, but let's take a look here. Here's a good picture of the more colors you have, the worse your system is. If you've got multiple cobbled together items all ransacked onto your bike, you probably have some issues. I really would not suggest, I really suggest using a system or a couple of systems that can be added together. This one in particular, the load hangs off the back of the bike, it hangs off the side of the bike. You've got tires strapped on. I know if you're going to go around the world, you need to probably take a tire with you, but for the most part, 99.9% of people aren't really going to be necessarily doing that. I guess maybe it looks cool, but not a good idea. But you've got multiple different dry bags stacked up on top of other dry bags, strapped to other dry bags, strapped to your saddlebag system. So really not a good idea. Same thing here, you've got a load that's way too high. You've got multiple things hanging off that could get caught. The guy does have some water there, that's a good idea. There's a lot in that front of that bike that is really haltering that rider as to what kind of movement he does, especially back here. We'll talk about that rider position later. This one here is actually packed not too badly, but you've got so much weight that is outboard of the motorcycle. That's going to be difficult to pick up. It's going to be difficult to access things that you need on the bike. When you have an emergency, you're going to be taking all of this stuff off. Let's see, what else do we have here? Now this guy, I applaud him, probably going in the desert. He needs water. I have the same issue, but these things are all using just standard bungee type cords that typically fail. You've got a lot of weight there that's not actually strapped down. Just really not a good idea. And that bike is just way overloaded. Let's go out and take a look at the bike. All right, let's head back out to the bike and take a look out there. Well, there's no real good way for me to film this and not get my shadow in the way, but please excuse my shadow down there. So my recommendation to you is to use as much of a system as you can, even if you've got what I've got here. So I've got a saddlebag system, I've got a smaller saddlebag system, and then I've got my dry bag on top. And as you notice, there's very few colors here. And I say that kind of in jest. I mean, I may have a red dry bag or blue smaller saddlebags there. However, using systems and systems that work well together is going to be your friend. I don't recommend using a rackless system on a motorcycle that has a monoshock. So if your shock, you don't have dual shocks like the old school stuff, you've got one monoshock in there, I really suggest using a rack for your saddlebags. This is a Tusk rack. It was inexpensive, it's installed easily, and it's super tough. When I don't have saddlebags on, they act as bumpers or guards in case I go down without bags on it. But with bags on it, it keeps them from moving into the tire space. They could be sucked in, especially on this side with no muffler, nothing to block it. It could be pulled in if you've got one of those tubular dry bag type. I don't want to mention a manufacturer, however, those circular type bags, if you will, that kind of tie to the side of the frame. I don't like those. I don't like saddlebags that don't have a rack with them on this type of motorcycle. If you wait till the end of the video, I can show you the rackless system that I use on my Bonneville that has 2 shocks. So the 2 shocks, the dual shocks in the back, will keep your bags out of there to some extent. I really like bags that have 2 attachment points, both to the rack and over a weight bearing over the seat, if you will, or over the frame. I don't really recommend putting too much of a load on a seat because it does have give in it. These bags are fairly light, so they don't really have an issue there. Also, a good dry bag, a good quality dry bag with some width to it so that it goes across the frame members is really a good idea. Okay, each one of your systems that you're using, or each part of your system that you have, should be frame supported. You don't want to have layers of bags attached to each other. You really want everything frame supported and individually attached to the frame. So these bags, these saddle bags, have 2 load bearing straps that go over the top. Now the front one goes over the back part of the seat, but also hits the supports for the hand guards, and back here it actually goes over the rear rack. So it's got two frame supports there. Like I said, if you do mount anything to the seat, make sure that that seat is compressed so that you don't have that deflection while you're riding. The strap loosens up and then you lose part of your load. So each one of these straps are tied to a frame member. Like I said, this is a bolt-on frame member. This is part of the rack system, and it comes up over the bag and ties in to the front part of the rack system right here. So I like to keep these attachment points as close to the load as possible, so you really don't have any chance of deflection of straps. That load is secured right near, as close as possible to the bottom of the load, both sides, and I crisscross the straps. I put them through the D-rings on the bag. If I've got these, and I'm lucky enough to have these, I do that. I cross them at the top, and then obviously again I attach them at the very behind, in here and in here. Now these saddlebags here, I have the load bear across the seat, but there's not a whole lot of weight here. These are frame mounted. There's 2 straps that go to the back and attach to the rear of the motorcycle to structure, and they also go to structure in the front. So they're stretched across here, plus they're load beared across the top of the bike. These are made to fit multiple different bikes, as well as these saddlebags. So the straps have options. Make sure where you strap these things down, they're not in the way of any mechanics. They're not in the way of your feet, your legs, or anything like that. Make sure that your strap choices are correct. So as far as the saddlebag system, this particular system, as I referenced before, has 2 load-bearing straps. They also have straps at each corner of the saddlebag that tie them directly to the rack system. So these aren't load-bearing. These just keep the bags inboard of the motorcycle and just keep them from flapping around. I really can't stress enough, and I'll probably mention this several times in the video, that you don't want any ancillary items on top of your bag system. And it may not be a system, like I said, maybe a dry bag just like that I've purchased separately, but you don't want to tie things to these bags. You don't want another bag on top of bag that's tied only to the bag, and you really don't want to put something on top and then strap over it because you've got longer length straps. Try to keep everything within that bag. Manage your stuff. You don't need a million things, especially most people only go for a weekend, 3 days or a week. I can probably put 2, almost 3 weeks of gear and supplies in this bike, less the water. I'd have to go stop and replenish water, but really I can be out on the road for a couple of weeks in this bike the way it sits without adding additional dry bags tied on, or other encumbrances that may fall off and get sucked into the bike. As you're loading the bags and as you're loading the bike, you want to make sure you keep all your weight as low as possible. It's difficult to do that all the time because you have to fit things in different places. However, try to keep heavier things like water, food, items like that. I've got water, emergency water on the bike. That's actually part of the rack system I use in the Rotopacks over here. But I usually carry some bottled water in there. I carry food, things like that. There's fuel for the rocket stove, things like that all get carried down here. Lightweight things get carried up here, tent, sleeping bag, things like that. I do have a video, and I'll link it at the end, of what I pack and where I pack it. The organization is really a key here too. Your final bag system, however you make that up, needs to be accessible in each area. I really, as I mentioned, I don't like to see things piled on top of each other and strapped down. Not only is it not structurally sound for going down the road, it is also difficult when you need to get to something. I've planned out my bag system so that I can get to each different individual bag. So down here, I can get to the saddle bag, which I believe on this side I would carry some water, I would carry my camp gear, cooking gear, stuff like that on this side. And you definitely want to balance side to side also. So the other side has emergency water, but it also has, tied to the rack. But inside that bag, I'll keep lighter things like clothing and, medical supplies, things like that. So I can get to both of those bags on the road. I have this saddlebag system, which carries tools and emergency things that for breakdowns and stuff like that. There's an air pump in here, there's tools on the other side. So things I need to get to right away are right in here, and there's nothing blocking me. They're all tucked in really nicely. And then on top, I can get to, when I get to camp, I pop off the 2 rock straps, pull out my tent, pull out my sleeping bag, pull out my tent pad, my lights, all that stuff is right in here, easy to get to. Another item is your straps. We've talked a lot about straps. Straps have little tails on them, and you want to have a strap management system, some way to manage those long tails. Maybe you use these things on different bikes. Maybe the system requires that you have a long tail on there. I use these flappy strappies. They come from Wolfman. Again, not a sponsor. These were like, I think it was like $10 for 8 of them or something. These are great. There's little rubber deals like these right here. Not rubber, but they're elastic. They came with these bags, but I think you can buy those on Amazon. But you want to make sure that each one of your straps is tied down and can't flop around and get into a mechanical area or get into your boot or something like that, I use these molly strap deals to do some additional strap management. The rock straps, I usually wrap them around other straps and put a little knot in them to make sure that they don't come apart. But a loose strap can come out and get caught on a tree, could get caught in your chain. There's just so many scenarios. Manage your straps. My favorite strapping method for tying down my one dry bag is these rock straps. It's not a sponsor, not sponsored by these people, but they give you the advantage of two different type systems. The bungee cord system, a short bungee cord. They give you the advantage of a strap system, the web strap type system, and these are cinched down by the strap and it's pulled on this bungee cord deal. What I really like about these is on both ends they will fold around a frame member. So on both sides you just take that loop, you put it around a frame member, you put it through, and it's securely tied, not coming off unless the strap fails. Next, those have multiple uses, so I carry an extra set. They come in different sizes. I can't find my small size right at the moment, but they come in different sizes and I highly recommend them. This is just your regular ratchet strap. I carry one or two on my bike for trips. They have multiple uses, so obviously to strap things down that you may not have, maybe you're going to go get firewood or something. Not a bad option. I would still suggest using the rock straps. If your rock straps break, you can replace it with one of these for the interim of the trip. Also, if one of your saddlebags fails or a security system, not security system, but a securing system fails, you can substitute this for it. I had a saddlebag ripped off along a shelf road. The cliff ripped off the saddlebag and I was able to strap it back on with a couple of these. Also, for a secondary purpose, if you have a flat and you can't get the bead on your bike, you can use this to go around the radius of the tire and jack that bead together so that you can put air on it, but definitely worth the while for that. Additionally, I don't like these. I don't recommend these. However, I do carry one. I use these for a very limited purpose. I use this to carry my trash out, so the trash is easy access to the first trash barrel I find. I would not, I'm even sketchy about doing that. I really don't like these. They don't really secure very well. They're not made to really hold a load down. They're really made just to take, maybe, like I said, trash, put it under there till you find a trash can to empty it out in. But these are somewhat handy, but do not use these to tie down a part of the system, whether it's your dry bag or a saddlebag or something to the saddlebag. Don't want to do that. Aside from structure and how you attach the bags and what bags you attach and where you attach them to, one of the critical things is setting up your motorcycle for the trip. This is incredibly important. Your manual talks about it. There's YouTube videos that talk about how to set up your motorcycle. As far as suspension, if you don't have a manual, look it up on the internet. Most of them are free. The manufacturer wants you to have it so you operate your vehicle properly. But this vehicle, this KTM, is really light in the front end. That's why it comes from the factory with a steering damper on the front. But it does have fully adjustable suspension, and there is a setup for riding loaded, and I use that to the fullest extent. I set up all the settings, and I use the manufacturer's recommendation for the forks and for the rear. It could be as simple as this one has a knob, and there's also a dampening screw, so you can turn that knob for spring compression, If you've got like a DR 650, something like that, you may have to manually take a screwdriver or a suspension wrench and torque those suspension nuts down on that spring to get you more suspension in the rear. Probably on a bike like that with regular conventional forks, there's probably not much you can do with the front of the suspension, but at least you'll get some load bearing capacity out of the rear. But you really need to set up your bike for the weight. And I highly recommend, once you get all this stuff on there, you get your suspension set up and you've got your kit ready to go, go out and take a road test, because your bike will handle vastly differently when you've got 60, 80, 100 pounds of gear on the back. So to add on to the testing, testing is something that you should be doing before, during, and after the ride. Really before the ride, as you're loading up your gear, the straps that you're using, the rock straps or bungee cords, whatever you're looking at, you need to look at the condition of the buckles, the condition of the straps themselves, the condition of the tie points, where you're tying to on the saddlebags, all the straps holding things down. You want to make sure that there's no rips, tears, or abrasions on them. And really check things over as you're adding them onto the bike. It's a real simple step. It can save you a lot of heartache on the road when something fails. Always have a spare backup for any straps that are not connected to the bags. Make sure that you have that in your bag somewhere, so that it's an easy fix. It's unfortunate, it may happen. You may have missed an abrasion or a cut or something like that, or something may do that along the road, but at least you're prepared and you've got some type of backup with you. So an ongoing test that you should do is when you're done putting your bags on, the night before, the day before, the week before, when you're done putting them on the bike, make sure that you do a shake test. Always walk around. There should be not a whole lot of movement. You can't get rid of all the movement. You should get rid of most movement. They should not be flapping around in the breeze. There's no way that any of this stuff is really going to be flapping around in the breeze. And this should be a constant test. As you are going down the road, if you're at a stoplight and it's a long stoplight, reach back and grab that saddlebag, just give it a little shake, or the side bags or your dry bag. Make sure it's still there. Make sure it's still on your bike. When you transition from the trail, if you guys are riding off-road, when you transition from the trail onto pavement, you've been going down a bumpy road, bumpy trail through trees, bushes, stuff like that, get off the bike. Go around and give that shake test, give a visual on all the components, and make sure that everything is right. You should be constant shake test as you get through the day, through the week, through the month, or whatever the duration of your ride. That should be just something that's almost muscle memory. You're just always grabbing that bag as you walk by at the gas station. Hey, get off for food or something like that. You give the bag a little shake, give it a look, and make sure that you're doing that shake test as much as you can. At the end of each ride, you should really check out each strap for damage during the trip. Check out all your bags. Make sure there's not holes in them so you can get a leak and all your clothes are wet, or your tent's wet, or a myriad of things, or your bag fails and the end comes off of it and all your stuff goes blowing down the road, or, as the purpose of this video, gets sucked into your motorcycle somewhere in the mechanical system and causes you harm. That's the main focus of this video, is just this. All this testing is going to keep you from having, or prevent you from having. It's never going to be 100%. It's going to prevent you as much as you can from having a failure that causes an accident, God forbid, or injury to yourself or injury to the bike. So all of these things that you're doing to check, and they're very simple things that can be done very quickly, is really going to make your trip safer, better, easier, and get you home to your family. I really like to talk about the rider area. It's very important. I know a lot of guys like to pack up the bike as much as they can. There's things like, I don't like to hang gear off the frame guards, any of the guards or stuff like that. I don't like stuff hanging off the side of the bike, especially outboard of the motorcycle. The saddlebags aren't much you can do about, especially in the front of the bike where your legs are. You really need to keep that area clear all the way back past your legs, in case you do go down, your legs gets dragged back. You're not going to get hit into a piece of luggage on your bike. Tank bags, those are a personal preference thing. I know a lot of folks like them because they're convenient, they're easy in and out. I really like this area open. I don't like to have, especially some of those tank bags can get really bulbous. They're great. I understand a lot of people like them. Personally, especially riding off-road, I like to have that rider area open as much as I can from front to back, so I've got plenty of movement as I go through rough trails and stuff like that. I can manipulate the bike with my body weight and you know, keep the bike upright. There's nothing blocking me. Another thing that folks like to do is get another bag in here, a couple bags, and use that as a backrest. Even on the road, I really don't suggest that. If you are in a situation off-road where you need to maneuver, having just that area back here to be able to lean back, get your butt back there, is really critical. If you have, you know, saddled yourself into the bike where you've got a bag back here, a tank bag up here, if you have trouble on the road, even on pavement, and you're going down, you've locked yourself onto the motorcycle. That is critically important, that you can be able to get away from the motorcycle, that you have the ability to probably try and prevent that. If you are locked into this space, things happen very quickly when you have an accident. Even though they seem like they're in slow motion, you need to have the ability to manipulate that motorcycle, get off of it if you can, get out of the way of danger. If you are locked into the motorcycle by two bags or a bag on either side, you are putting yourself at risk. A couple of personal preference things that I wanted to share with you. Personally, for me, I like soft bags. I caution people, especially off-road, on using hard bags. You have whatever scenario happens and your leg gets dragged back and maybe caught against a rock or dirt or something like that. It gets dragged against that hard bag and it has really potential for mechanical injury. If you're riding, especially off-road, soft bags are my preference. Think about them, think about what scenarios there could be. There's a lot of advantages to hard bags. But I recommend against them. The other thing that I recommend, personal preference thing, is a center stand, especially riding off-road. It gives you, once you get to camp, it gives you a stable platform to get your stuff on and off the bike. You don't have to worry about it so much tipping over in the wind. If you have a mechanical failure with a bike, it's easier to work on the bike with a center stand. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you watching. I hope you've gotten some information, some things that you can use, some tips that you can use from my experience, my opinions, and I hope something that you can actually put together for yourself and something to make you think about safety when you're going down the road on a trip. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget, if you want to look at a rackless system set up for a two rear shock Triumph Bonneville, it's at the end of this. Thanks for watching. Adios. This is the setup for my Bonneville. Advantageous because I just got back from the trip. And I just wanted to, first thing, and if I'm repetitive, I'm doing this on a different day than the main video, but I wanted to show you this setup along with the one for my big bike, the KTM. All right, mounting straps, mounting points are the same thing. You want a structural member of the frame or something that is bolted directly to the frame. So these are rock straps, and this goes to the passenger peg mount that's welded to the frame. It also attaches right here to the sissy bar, which is again bolted to the frame. I use rock straps, and I would suggest using Rock's brand straps. They're the best made out there as far as I can see. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you don't lose your bag or you don't have a life-changing injury because your bag went into your wheel, it's probably worth the extra 10 bucks, right? So what I like about rock straps is they have the benefits of both a nylon web strap and a bungee cord. Bungee cords have a tendency to, because the whole thing is elastic, you know, you go over a bump, something gets shifted, and they lose their grip and off you go. where straps, same thing, if they get wet they stretch. This keeps constant tension. There's other issues with straps, but this combination system, you can mount from point to point, and there's a buckle here. Make sure that it's, check things, and it keeps that tension on the straps themselves. The straps, our mounting points, is a loop through, so there's a loop and then you run the strap through it. I really like that. It's a really stable, rigid system instead of like a hook. Another key thing to look for or to manage is strap management. If you've got long straps, you don't want them flying around, getting caught in the chain, getting caught in the sprocket, getting caught in the wheel. I tie my straps back to the straps, or my loose ends back to the straps. This is a pretty good system. It's always worked pretty good for me, and it keeps everything looking neat as a side benefit, but also it keeps everything from getting caught somewhere. This duffel bag is one of two duffel bags. I don't even know what the liter size of this is. It's a regular nylon type Cordura type regular duffel bag. Heavy duty, works real well. It's actually fairly waterproof. I use either this one or my 70-liter dry bag. Both work well. Both need to be mounted correctly. So to mount this correctly, you want to make sure that the bottom of the bag is even with the bike. The top of the bag is going to, as you use stuff, as you come back like this, kind of looks like it's cattywampus, but it's not. It's all even on the bottom. The top is a little bit off kilter. However, your straps go through and those are even, and they keep the bag mounted flush to the bike across the bottom. I like to cross my straps, so from frame member to frame member, I like to cross the straps. This gives torsional stability, and it's just not going anywhere. You can tug on it as hard as you want, and it's not going to move. One thing I don't like about this setup, and I don't suggest it's the best way, but if it's the only thing you have, is mounting on a seat. A seat has flex to it. You don't want to mount something that is on a flexible system. As you've seen on the KTM, I've got a flat, pretty solid surface to generally mount to, but this is not my favorite. However, if you're going to do this, you need to for lack of a better word, lash it down as tight as possible so that this is compressed and it's not going to, over time or over a bump, compress and then you lose your bag. So I have a rackless bag system. This is from Viking Bags. I don't particularly care for rackless bag systems. However, this does work well in the situation that I have it in. I would not suggest any type of rackless bag system from any manufacturer for a monoshock bike. With this bike, I have dual shocks, one on each side. They are outboard of the motorcycle and they act as a rack. And this bag is not going anywhere. Same thing on this side. That shock keeps that bag as a rack, not as a rack, but it does, fill in for having a rack, because over here, back to the KTM, you've got the actual rack that I use. But if these racks were not here, well, probably they'd hit the muffler and you'd have a chance of burning up a strap and losing a bag. Or if this side here, if this rack wasn't here and this bag wasn't here, there's clear access to the tire. You don't want to have that. Anything that could possibly get in your tire, get in the chain or the sprockets, you don't want to have that. And I'm probably repeating myself, but every stop, religiously, you want to check every strap. You want to make sure that the straps are not dangling. You want to make sure that they're in good shape, that they haven't burned, that they're not defective, and just go around, do a shake test on the bags. Every stop, the more you do it, the more often you'll do it. But that's my Bonneville bag setup.